I'd like to shift gears a little bit and have you explain, either of you, the term prompt engineering. Is there an art or is it a science? Because I hear engineering.
Alex is an artist. I'll let him talk about his art. I just watch from afar.
Yeah, do you mind explaining maybe more simply for those who don't know? And then feel free to kind of give examples of what a bad prompt may look like and how you would engineer it to be better for the model.
Yeah. So prompt engineering is interesting because it's a new thing that, I mean, there's debate on whether or not it's going to stick around. But to give you a high level explanation of what prompt engineering is, essentially these machine learning models, like these large language models, they are capable of outputting incredible content. But it really depends on your input to the model, because you can think of it like a really, really fancy autocomplete, right? If you type, write an email to my boss that I'm sick, and you have it just write an email, it's going to write something, it'll probably be okay. But if you have it write an email where you're like, we are a group of professional customer service email writers. One of our clients is sick today and they want to send a message to their boss calling out, one, that they are sick, two, that they'll be able to answer any emergencies that come up, three, they'll be back on this day. And then below, write the email. And then you have it write the email. You're going to get one that's going to be a lot more aligned with what you're trying to get out of it than just saying like, write an email. And you can get really creative with that. A lot of our prompt engineering for Roko is not just here's a text and create a summary of it. It's like, here's a bunch of context about nouns and what Rocco's trying to do. Here's the full proposal. Then here's a breakdown of how we want Rocco to break down this proposal. And then here's the start of that breakdown. And then we pass that in, and that's our prompt. So that gives us really good results. I mentioned this article last time we were talking, but there's one called Using GPT-3 to Augment Human Intelligence. And that is a really cool essay where it talks a lot about different ways you can use GPT-3. There's a few things that it calls out specifically. So it says that you can use it as a research assistant. So what they call out is they write an essay about how we can structure online education around apprenticeship models and communities of practice. And it'll write out an essay. But again, with prompt engineering, you can get creative with that. And this isn't mentioned in the essay, but if you, instead of having it say write an essay about how we can structure, you say, write a Harvard business case study about how we can structure online education apprenticeship, the style of writing totally changes. And in my opinion, it gets way better and has a very structured response to it. And you're able to get something that reflects a business case study. And a business case study, what does that mean? It just means it's a structured response with a beginning, middle, and end with pros and cons. And you typically want something like that. So that's a little bit where prompt engineering comes in. It's about getting creative on how you think some of these words will impact this model and then use them in a way and then just test with it and see how you can get good responses. It is a little bit of an art right now because it's tough to really know how it's going to impact it. But I think there's a lot of different ways to be really great at it. But it seems to me that one way to make sure that you're using it to the best of its ability over time is to treat it like you would a science experiment, right? Having a thesis of, I want to try and get this to be more verbose, or I want it to be this to be better content, to be more lighthearted, or to be more like this or that. And then have a few different things that you try and keep track of the ones that perform the best, right? Over time, you just have to start learning the ins and outs of it for yourself, but it also changes for each model because each model has a different memory, or what we call the latent space. And so, your one query on GPT-3 is going to be totally different than the same query in GPT-6b or 6J or something, which is the open source alternative. Yeah. So hopefully that answered your question a little bit.